So, welcome to our post-game chat session 3, where we're going to be looking at the session that we just had, talking about it a bit, and letting you guys get to know us a little bit more. So, Pius, I imagine that you are very, very curious about what was taken.
Yeah. What did she take?
Well, that is a very interesting question. But
She stole your heart, man.
No, she didn't.
she she loosened your belt buckle rather significantly.
How on earth would I not notice that?
Because your perception was bad. I don't make the rules. Well, actually, I tweaked the rules. But yeah,
Uh,
you haven't noticed it. She's done something to your belt. So it may be problematic come combat.
and this is the story of how Corvus learned that suspenders were the way.
Indeed. But yeah, she loosened your belt and she tucked something inside of it. So that's why you didn't notice. Now, Peter, you met Nizir the Black Spider, and you didn't notice anything suspicious about him other than him being a dark elf. And this is the first time Hat Guy has actually spoken to you. How did you feel about his advice?
Felt rather put down as the last few encounters with uh people who felt similarly about him. So the you're just a child, like, how can I say this? Um, that you can actually understand. It's becoming an obvious pattern, and his pride is no longer becoming a sanctuary for him. It's like the more he indulges and the more he just says things, the more he gets burnt. And he's not, like, he keeps hitting his head against this proverbial wall of, like, I'm gonna say this and this is how it's gonna be. And that's not. And then, like, I love the role playing that we had just afterwards. I felt like I could really get into the character with his desires and his insecurities. Moreover, his self-denial. Like, he finds himself here by his own choice, and yet he's unhappy. He's trying all these things to be someone, to have this experience that he's looking for, but it's doors keep closing in his face. It's not just like, oh, that you can't really go down that path, that doesn't really work. No, it's like he's stubbing his toe and hitting his face on every door that he attempts to walk through with people.
And yet, he successfully faced down a dragon, and he felt no fear with that roll. I believe it was an 18.
Mm-hmm.
Nazir, the black spider. And what's interesting about this is the dragon that he faced, Lord Icespire, as he identified himself with, and the girl that he encountered near the end, both of them were very, very young. I mean, the girl was 17 to 23, somewhere within that age range, as far as you could determine. But the dragon was also a young dragon. So really, the and Iverna the Night Breeze, she's not particularly old in elven years either. Not that you particularly pick up on this because you haven't really noticed in character. And so out of character, you've pieced together a few things, but really the only two people who've had any significant age, three if you count Gundren the Rockseeker, would be Sildar and Nazir the Black Spider. And Nazir obviously is an elf, and Sildar is a human. So in terms of authority figures or figures who have the capacity to speak with any kind of authority, you've only been told to listen with your ears by Nazir. And what does he mean to you? He's just a guy with a hat who did nothing while a dragon was throwing a temper tantrum above you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's uh fascinating how he can't connect with his peers or those in his quote unquote age range. And he is looked down upon by those older than him. I would hate to see him with like a 10-year-old. What would happen?
Well,
Like
you almost did, but I really liked the balm that you came up with for the character with the face mask. That was a really nice touch where it just shows that he's on the road, but he's still able to indulge in something, some memento of home.
yeah, and especially something I'm realizing as well in my life. This can kind of give the our listeners are a bit of perspective of my life. I am a image consultant, or more specifically, a barber, and understanding hair, skincare. It's a whole ordeal, and it's definitely an expensive ordeal as well. And it was something I wanted to add to this character to be like, it's like the meme, like you're not ugly, you're just poor. When it shows like famous people before they hit it big, and then now, like with all the cosmetics, with all the makeup and the glamour and the skincare routines that they can actually afford, it really does something for their look. And so for him coming from something more, it was it made sense that he would still have those routines and those cleansing patterns that an average person would not have.
Yeah, absolutely. He's very much a prince to a pauper type. But I also I also enjoyed how you were, I don't even want to say bantering, I think more bickering with the girl on the side of the road, because in many ways she's almost a mirror to Notice and a kindred spirit, insofar as both of them are absolute spoilt brats who are attention seekers. And how did Notice feel when he identified looking at someone so similar to himself? Obviously, she is without money, but it's the same sense of entitlement. So, how dare you not look at me? Don't you hear me crying? Why aren't you paying attention?
Hmm. Definitely a case of um, we hate what we see ourselves. We hate what we see in other people in ourselves. Like he saw her side of the road. He felt suspicious. Like this is unreally. Everyone just started like trying to figure out some stuff, and then he just opens his mouth, just shares something honest, and if like he tries to be something sincere, and he gets shot down again. And then he's like, okay, this spread a spot of sunshine side the road. And I was literally typing in like PG insults to try to, because like I literally, like when she said like I hope you die, what would you say, what was the thing you insulted me with?
I hope you die, eunuch.
A eunuch. Yeah, I was like, okay, so like that's like it's pretty intense, that type of insult, and the words I like immediately came to my mind were very much not like what we want to promote on this channel and what we want to say. So I literally like stepped back and I was like, okay, keep it real, but keep it like a little tampered down. And I couldn't think of anything, so I just play with it with my character, you know. um I hope to like have a list. Like I'm gonna like print out like a list of like safe words and words I'm gonna like try to experiment with.
Yes. Well, one of the goals that I have is for every NPC to have a life of their own, to have a life outside of you guys. And so not everyone you meet is necessarily going to be nice, but then you have those who are. And on the surface, some of them may seem like cardboard cutouts, but have you taken the time to actually get to know them? And have you taken the time to get to know the reasons behind the way they are? But more importantly, do you actually care? Do you care to get to know their stories?
Yeah. And right now, Notice has yet to find anyone he really cares, anyone's story that he really cares about outside of Sildar. Um, he like he hasn't found someone to live for in the sense of like you live for like what your parents teach you. You live out of the morals and the understandings that they have raised you on, and you go out into the world and you find your own and you adapt them, and you step forward, always trying to learn and always trying to seek to be a better person day after day. And as Christians, like we seek to grow closer to Christ. You know, as Notice is not the most religious fella, he's floundering, especially because he has not experienced really what that moral like stability is. That like this is what I ought to live as. I am not that all the time, but I strive to live it every day. For him, he thinks the world and people ought to be a certain way. You know, we really relate there. We have like that one person that's just a jerk to us, and we're like, I just wish they would like shut up. I wish they would just be quiet, or like actually say something meaningful instead of just be super prideful or be super in their own world, you know, or other stuff. And then we we realized that we just spent so much time wishing to change someone else's life that we missed the opportunity to actually change our own, and change it for the better, change what we can and let go of the things that we can't change, you know. So
Well, you raise a really, really interesting point there, Peter. And so far, your screen time with Sildar has been very, very minimal. In fact, we only really saw him in the first session. So, open question to everybody here. When you have been listening to the different characters who've engaged with Sildar, notably Iverna the Night Breeze, and this is for the players rather than for your characters, although we'll look at your characters too. Do you feel more connected to Sildar as a result of hearing Iverna's somewhat biased take on him? Because it's clear that she thinks the world of him.
Totally.
Yeah.
It gives him another dimension.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
I like the layers that we were able to bring for the different characters because of that. The seeing the structure, like you were saying, like they each have their own individual lives, and even when they're not in game, like actually talking, like the people that they have influenced and the people that have that know them speak of them, and thereby we learn of them and like grow to understand more of them, even though they're not there. That's a character with influence. That's a character with a prowess that builds up to something. So like when they're actually there, it feels like we already knew them.
Yeah.
So, Pius,
Yes.
at first, Iverna seemed like she was made of steel and very, very cold. But Corvus has been seeing some of those outer layers of the outer shell more or less dissolve, and she feels comfortable enough to confide in him. How how has this changed viewing the character for you personally? Do you feel more emotionally invested in her? Do you feel like you know her a bit better? Does she mean anything to you more now than when you first met her?
Yes. Yes. Quite a bit. Because like the no nonsense leader is just a caricature. It's a trope. But showing a more human side of the character adds depth. as it does with everything. So yeah, Corvus and me would feel more attached, just because there's more to know.
Yes. And she never actually named Nazir the Black Spider by name. She just referred to him as he. And out of character, you have observed there's something of a relationship between the two of them. And from her, you've heard there's something of a relationship between them. And have you been able to piece together more of who this enigmatic, mysterious figure, Hat Guy, is? Because the last time we spoke after the game, you wanted to know more about him because he was so nonchalant, was your word, I believe, and blasé. And you suspected he might be a very powerful magic user or just completely stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we know a bit more about him now, so yeah.
And
I wasn't super far off from the looks of things.
no, you were not. You were very close, actually. Um, and how about you, Isaac? Because he revealed himself to you. How does that make your character feel?
Honestly, he still thinks he probably didn't deserve it, but he's very honored that he did.
So does he believe that this guy actually is the Black Spider?
Oh, absolutely. He holds no doubt. Just the way he was talking matches up with his lore and everything else that he had grown up hearing over the years.
So with that said, at the moment we have quite a small cast of characters. We've got Sildar, we've got Gundren the Rockseeker, we have got Iverna the Nightbreeze, we've got Talon, who, bless his heart, he doesn't seem to have a lot to say other than clear. And then we've got Pickled Pete, who has his own monosyllable language of yep and maybe a yep.
Yep.
And
Yep.
yes, there you go.
Yep.
And then we've got Nazir the Black Spider, aka Hat Guy. So it's quite focused right now, and we're probably going to reach Phandelver next session. Of course, we also have the unnamed girl and her cow, Annabelle. And of course, I do know her name, and her name's Joanna. But how do you feel about how the RP is going in terms of focus? Because it is quite tight right now. And I imagine that you're looking forward to exploring more of the world.
I'll be honest, I feel like I'm kind of dropping the ball when it comes to the frequency and speed that I respond to things. It's just a matter of I can't really get into Corvus's headspace very well because I'm still feeling him out. I imagine it'll get better, but I take way too long to respond to things, and I feel like everything I say is stilted.
Honestly, I like the voice you've given him, but I also feel that part of it might be hampered by, shall we say, mediocre roles. It's not as if you've been high rolling.
Yeah, true. It's
Okay,
like it. It's like in every social situation, he's rolled terrible
well, I mean,
or okay at best.
it's given him his out to just kind of stay quiet.
Yeah, and that's honestly not the greatest when I'm trying to feel out a character.
Yes. But I mean, you'll have the opportunity to speak without the dice rolls sooner or later. And I imagine that after this latest ambush is resolved, you will have much more to say, much more to report. Do you feel any kind of kinship towards Iverna in any way?
Yeah, I've settled into the role of leader, so we are both leaders. In that way, we are brothers or siblings, I guess.
Hmm.
On top of that, I just sympathize with her on a human level. Dealing with that kind of stress is hard. So, me recognizing that, Corvus would obviously recognize it.
Yes. Okay, so Peter, notice. I feel bad for the guy. I feel that he's kind of getting the short end of the stick at the moment. He's doing his best and he just seems to be coming up short. Do you have any plans of where you would like to take the character without spoiling anything for the audience? Do you have any hopes or any dreams for him when you actually hit town? Because in the town, there are going to be different shops, and there may not be the same type of shops that he'd find in the city, but there will be an opportunity for him to go exploring and for him to perhaps spruce up his wardrobe and his cosmetics, even if they're not the quality that he's used to. Do you have any kind of plans for how you'd like to hopes and dreams, shall we say?
Yes. I would love to see if I could take this character from not knowing why he is who he is and why he's brought himself to the place he is to knowing why he is here and being okay with the unknown and the fearful assumptions he assumes people make about him. Not only make about him or have towards him because of his age, because of his race as an elf, highborn, class, other stuff like that. When you come from a very, what's the word? Structured lifestyle. You know, this is a place for this. This type of cutlery is only used with this dish. This type of clothing is only worn for this event and nothing else. You lose a lot of the like expression that an individual could have. And when you go from that to then, I'm just going to make it on my own, you then go and you assume that everything then has a natural structure to it. And that structure is your perception and your understanding of how things are structured. So you have this character coming in, assuming the world is a certain way it is, which the world is a way it is. Goes by in a structure, yes, but it's not a structure that you understand completely and you will know. So seeing him come out of that, seeing him let go or have more of a ease in this world is what I'm hoping to gain.
Well, that's fantastic because I do have plans after this. And they're still in the works, but there are plans there. So, last question before we break, and it's a two-part question. So, as players, do you guys have a favorite character, either a player character or NPC? Is there anyone that you relate to more than the others? And the second part of that question is, as characters, who do you feel closest to? And if you don't feel closest to anyone, is there someone that you would like to get closer to?
For me, the answer for all of them would be the elf lady, who I can never remember the name of for some reason.
Iverna.
Iverna, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I just enjoy her as a character. And I don't really know how to describe it, but there's just something about her character that's simpatico with the vision that I have for Corvus as a character. They are kindred spirits.
That may have been very deliberate on my part.
All right, well, congratulations, Machiavelli.
Well, what is the M in Dungeon Master?
True.
Mm-hmm.
There's another kind of short-term aspect of Corvus's character that I'd like to get to light as soon as we get to town, though. A love of wine, women, and song, basically.
Hmm.
Mm.
I mean, he is a pirate, so
Yeah,
Privateer.
exactly.
yeah.
Privateer, yes.
Well, I mean, the reason that I did that is because I needed a leader who was competent, but I also wanted to give Corvus a kindred spirit with someone that he could relate to, so you could build your character and they would play off each other. If
Yeah.
you look at comedy duos, if you take them in isolation, they don't tend to work nearly as well. They need someone to play off. And so
Yeah.
having someone who is
Every rule needs his Hardy, every abbot needs his Costello.
indeed, so having someone
Dang.
play off is very, very important. And having someone who is strong but also vulnerable and relatable, I felt would give Corvus room to develop and to breathe.
Yeah. Otherwise, he just would have ended up staying the default, which is a trap everything I play falls into.
Oh, hopefully not this time. Okay, so how about you, Isaac? In character and out of character, is there a particular character that you like more than others?
Honestly, I'm gonna have to say the Black Spider. Like I enjoy his character and what you've transformed him into from the actual campaign. Like just the vanilla campaign. I enjoy seeing what you've turned him into. And just he's an all-around great character.
Also, totally wasn't deliberate with you in mind.
Mm-hmm. Ah, yes, but then whose is notices?
Joanna.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
dumb. We've discussed this.
literally on the tip of my tongue, and you beat me to it, Parker. Mirroring the player characters is something very, very deliberate. I wanted to give everybody a mirror for them to look into, either as someone they could aspire to be or someone to play off. So with Notice, I know that Peter wants to get him on an arc where he has a chance to self-reflect. And one of the best ways to do that, I believe, as a writer, is to put something in front of them where they can identify certain traits or certain characteristics. And so he looks at her and he sees a spoiled brat who's giving him lip. And he's just been told, hey, kid, calm it down. Use your ears more than your mouth. And yet he's all offended because who wouldn't be, particularly at that age? It's like, I don't need to listen to you. And with a roll of 18, I'm not scared of you, old man. Go away.
Mhm.
And so then he sees this girl who's basically acting, if not exactly identically to him, she's using similar tactics. The mindset, the intent behind it is pretty much the same. It's I'm entitled. Why aren't you paying attention to me? I can say whatever I want, and you don't have the right to tell me to stop. Just like when she was arguing with Joe about consent, which by the way was very, very funny. And if we'd had time, we could have continued that.
No, please. No.
Yeah.
It needs to continue. I'm sorry. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm just imagining the entire interaction with Joanna just being that gif that Peter sent earlier.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, it's deliberate that you guys have characters who you can project onto and engage with. And what's going to be really fun is when you basically play musical chairs. What happens when Corvus meets Nazar the Black Spider and they actually sit down and have a conversation for the first time? What's going to happen when Joe and Joanna end up in a tavern together sharing a bottle of wine? That's probably never going to happen.
No, he will knock her out.
Oh yes.
Mhm.
You know, or Iverna when she and Notice actually sit down and have a real conversation rather than these sparks which are flying in this. I don't like him. Why did Sildar choose him? And she goes crying off to Corvus. What happens when she actually sits down and has a conversation with Joe Mib, when she actually recognizes that he is competent and she respects that, and everybody has a moment of panic and screaming dragon, probably. But to you, Peter, I'm curious. Who is your favorite character?
I've always enjoyed the characters with tropes a lot, especially how you DM them. So Pickled Pete right now is my favorite. I also love that we're having to understand him both in game and out of game. So I enjoyed the challenge of that. Like I think as someone who's playing a character who doesn't get a whole lot of people, it's really funny to have a character who's so simplistic and yet is super hard to follow along. So I'm excited to see where Pickled Pete will play into our story.
Well, that's a really interesting point, because out of all of the characters, I believe that Gundren, the Rockseeker, and Pickle Pete have been the ones which Notice have connected to the most, because Gundren talks about stories of lost glory and clan honor and this, that, and the other, and Pete is very, very simple, and it's just, at least in how he says things, but not what his meaning is, and it's just yep and yep and yep and yeah. So would you say that's a fair comment?
Yeah, that's pretty fair. It's wonderful what we can do with so little for a character, and I'm excited to see how we can play off of that.
Well, that sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you all for joining us. I hope that this session has been insightful and all of you guys know a little bit more about the intent behind our characters and the game. We're looking forward to seeing you for session 4 next time. So remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts, what you think of the characters, where you think the story is going, and how you're enjoying it so far. And we will see you next time. Thank you and bye for now.